Awesome. Well, good morning, Greg. How's it going?
All right, Jack. Doing fantastic. Good morning.
Nice. And we are live on the interwebs here.
Yep, looks like we have 20 people. Awesome.
Oh, nice. Oh, well, that's a good crew. I think one thing to point out just at the beginning here, if anyone has any questions during the live stream, we definitely have a time for that at the end, but we will also try to get to them during the live stream as well. So please just feel free to drop those in the chat, and we will get to them as we can.
Fantastic. I think we can start off with the round of introductions.
Greg, do you want to kick it off, or should I go?
I can do. My name is Greg Osuri. I'm the CEO, founder of Akash Network. And Jack?
Yeah, hey, my name's Jack Samplin. I'm a product Ronin at Cosmos. I've been worked on the Cosmos SDK, helped launch the hub, and most recently I've been working on the relayer, but I've also been very involved with Akash for a while. So getting on to talk about the Akash testnet, and yeah.
Also something to I think worth mentioning, Jack is the first outside contributor to Akash Network from the core team, and also a close advisor to Akash.
Yeah, it's the work that we're doing here at Akash, I think is really, really cool. And my career background, I have worked in both cloud and in cryptocurrency, and I think that there's so much crossover between the two that Akash is really the only startup that I've seen that really, I think, taps into that full potential of this two huge developer communities between blockchain and cloud, and really tries to bring in best of breed from both of them. And that's what really has me excited about this project.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining this stream. This is our first bi-weekly live stream. And during the session, we plan on giving you a quick recap of all the updates, all the amazing things that are happening on this side of the table, and present some awards that we want to recognize folks that have been extremely high on contributions, both in a community manner as well as making sure our network is resilient. And at the end, you'll have an opportunity to submit your questions. I think you can submit your questions through the stream, and we'll have some time by end of the QA, by end of the session, to answer your questions. Anything else you want to say, Jack, before we begin?
Just hey, Sunny, another Akash advisor on the stream as well, and yeah, no, let's go ahead and kick this thing off. I think getting started with a recap is probably the best way to go here. This has been a very, very exciting testnet as far as they go. Having worked at Cosmos for a while, I've seen a number of testnets for a number of different protocols, including the Cosmos ones. And this Akash testnet, I think, had more excitement than most of them that I've seen recently. In addition to being one of the largest testnets since the Game of Stakes that we did last year, there were around 211 teams that registered, and we ended up with around 91 active validators. I was one of those, as well as a number of other people. It's an extremely large decentralized launch, which is something that is very, very cool, and that is just, I think, a credit to the Akash team, as well as the underlying software and the excitement around that. So there were 3 phase 1 releases. We had Centauri, Cirrus, and Erodini. And obviously some challenges around upgrades there. We have somebody in the chat already asking when the next upgrade is coming, and we will discuss that here soon. One other thing that happened was this massive zero-fee transaction attack. We had sort of seen, we have somebody named Akash commenting on our name, which is wonderful. Thank you. this is something that we've seen on some previous test nets, but I think the scale of it and the effect where it took down validators, but the network was able to continue to make blocks and make progress, which was great, is pretty impressive. There's a write-up on that by Alex Novi and some folks who were in the testnet, and they saw over 235,000 new accounts created, millions of transactions on the order of 3.6 million. We were seeing large numbers of transactions included per block, which is really, really cool. And we had over 60 nodes go down. And these were all of the folks that forgot to set min fee. And if you go take a peek at the testnet scoreboard, you will see that Pylon Validator was among those. So many folks got bit by that attack. But really cool to see something that large scale and that organized during a testnet. Greg, do you have any thoughts about that attack?
Yeah, it does demonstrate the resiliency of the network, which is phenomenal. We had zero downtime throughout the attack. And I think one of the wonderful things I've noticed was how community organized itself and self-corrected by sharing those lessons. We also experienced a AWS downtime event. I mean, I don't know how many testnets get that lucky to experience an AWS downtime event during a testnet at peak, immediately followed by a spam attack. So we got really lucky there. What I was very impressed was the amount of nodes. There were, I believe, 9 or 10 nodes that went down right around the time there was an outage in AWS. So only 9 out of 91 nodes are actually on AWS. I take that with a lot of pride because Ethereum has over 60% of their nodes on AWS or cloud in general. So that's a moment of definitely pride for me, considering our vision and our mission are aligned with our validators. Overall, I mean, I just really humbled to see a decentralized network come alive. And what's one of the most impressive things was the network came alive at around 9 o'clock at the exact same time. We had 81 validators that came up or something around that range.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's an incredible feat of really a decentralized coordination. All we're doing is coordinating over a series of chat rooms on the internet, and 81 different groups of folks were able to get their validators up at the same time. And I'm always astounded when I see that happen.
Yeah. It's just super excited and super humbled to see a decentralized network launch.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things is there has been some issues in this testnet. We just covered the attack and the AWS outage. There was also a failed upgrade as well. And I think that during testnets, we kind of expect to see things like this. And it's really healthy because we'd way rather get these things out in testnets than in mainnet. And another huge knock-on effect there is that it, I think, really trains validators in these critical situations where on mainnet, hopefully we never have to run into them. But once we hit mainnet, in the horrible event that we do run into something like this, I think it shows that the community is ready to go and that they're prepared to deal with these types of eventualities by raising fees or, some spinning up additional centuries or decentralizing their validator setups across a number of clouds. And watching that sort of resilience get trained into this validator set from the beginning, I think is something that's really cool. And it's one aspect of these test nets that I really, really like. And seeing that again in this test net with consistent uptime is just so cool in my mind. And it's a credit to not only the validator set, but also the development team.
Awesome. Great. Do you have some questions that are coming up? Do you want to move on to what's next?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great. I think what happened in Cirrus about the upgrade and what we learned. So one of the the major issue that prevented that upgrade was essentially an SDK misconfiguration, and through that we've learned how to test for this, and we've added some automated tests, and also I think it's helped the team understand some of the pieces of the SDK a little bit better, and specifically which piece of the SDK was misconfigured is something called the evidence module. And the evidence module tracks double spends and other validator misbehavior, and we built it in preparation for IBC. A lot of that configuration changed relatively recently, and we didn't pick up some of the latest changes. I have been helping quite a bit with SDK integrations, as I've done tons of these upgrades recently around IBC. So hopefully the addition of the automated testing, as well as the awareness around some of those changes internally, I think is really going to help moving forward. And this just goes to sort of the broader piece of operationalizing the SDK. Akash was originally built just on Tendermint, and a lot of the proof of stake system had its own code base. And Greg and the team worked very hard to migrate off of that onto the SDK, because it's a standard, it's battle tested, and there would be a lot. It would be a lot easier to bring Akash to market in a way that people can use it and start seeing the value proposition of this decentralized cloud. And there are going to be kind of growing pains with that, and I think that that's kind of what we saw here. But the good news is that the engineering team, I think, has figured out the right way to deal with this and added automated testing for it, and that's the way forward here. Greg, any additional comments there?
No, I mean, I was just amazed by how fast Cosmos SDK is moving, and how fast we could actually sync with upstream. Of course, there are going to be errors and mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not making progress. That's like the way I like to think.
Yep.
It was a massive engineering effort to migrate to Cosmos SDK, considering that we began the development for Akash Network in late 2017 on Tendermint. I think overall we deleted a little over 150,000 lines of code, if I remember.
That PR is outrageous. I just remember watching it as you were working on it. I was like, whoa.
There was a lot of code, and it was very painful to delete the code, but deleting code is also reducing the attack surface. So the less code you have, the less attack surface you have, which is critical especially for a public utility like a blockchain. We'd rather have a shared set of code that's battle tested, audited, and under scrutiny by a lot more scrutiny by the community, like Cosmos SDK, and less of our custom code as much as possible. So I consider this as a huge win. Obviously, our the last testnet alpha we released had its its limits when it comes to scalability. We had about 1,800 applications deployed, 144 providers on the network, and it was running on a very old Tendermint version, and that had obviously that hit its limits, and we were very, very proud that we could actually stretch the performance to its limits. The newer migration is definitely showing exponential levels of flexibility when it comes to scale, especially looking at the validator set, which is about 99 right now. We can easily bring that up to 200. I don't see a reason why not. The actual number will be probably around 64, and that'll increase gradually to optimize our validator prosperity sort of metric.
I think that's extremely important, and something that a lot of people miss in this discussion around numbers of validators. You can have tons and tons of validators that aren't making any money and are essentially sinking cloud cost into the network without really gaining a whole ton of benefit. And I think that the strategy that you're proposing, Greg, and that Akash wants to take is to have a smaller, more high quality validator set that is sort of more uniformly profitable, and that's going to lead to a stronger network in the long term.
Yes, and gradually increasing the validator set as the network comes to maturity and as we scale. And I think that's a way better, even though technically it's possible that we can go up to like 200 validators. I think that's a way better distribution of incentives and gives our validators enough time to ramp up. And particularly excited about Akash Challenges because because we are effectively a mechanism to get those high quality validators going on the network.
Definitely. And another thing about that SDK migration, a lot of people think about Gaia and the hub when they think about the Cosmos SDK, but we have about a year of real massive improvements that not only the Tendermint, but the SDK team has been working on that haven't been deployed on the hub. So if all you've been using is Looney and the Cosmos hub, there's huge performance improvements, on the order of 100x for transaction throughput as a result of some encoding changes that we've made lately. Akash incorporates those. There's an upgrade module that allows for governance to better control upgrades. And, obviously part of that testing with the Arati upgrade that we have missed so far and that we're going to cover here in a bit, that's included in Akash. Tendermint has recently spent a lot of effort developing a way to quickly sync nodes. We call that feature state sync. And, if you've ever tried to sync a node on mainnet, you know that it takes a really long time. And even for like 500,000 to 600,000 blocks, like it can sometimes take a day or two. We brought that time down to around 5 to 10 minutes for mainnet on the Cosmos hub. So for Akash, all of those benefits are going to come in right from the beginning of the network. And, being able to build the more complex incentivization and fee schedule that we're talking about here at Akash as a second stage in a much more sustainable way. So really looking forward to seeing those pieces moving forward.
Great. I think next on our agenda is the Erndani update. What happened? Happened with?
Is the leader? Yeah, sorry, Greg. Let's start off on the Arati upgrade, and we can do questions later.
Let's continue with the agenda. I don't have.
Yeah, so with Arati, the upgrade proposal that we asked everyone to veto yesterday, during testing, we identified a bug in the version that we were planning on upgrading to. This was around import-export of the data. And this is, again, a SDK configuration issue. There's a couple of tricky places, and I think we've kind of run into them. But it's good to get all this stuff tested. So this would have prevented the chain from restarting correctly. Everyone would have essentially seen panics. So I believe, and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong here, what the engineering team is doing is we're circling up to ensure that we have a clean next release, and then we're going to upgrade to that, correct?
Correct. So the next release, the goal is to get the network up ready for phase 2. And the phase 2 is essentially categorized as provider operations or network operations, we like to call.
Yeah.
And the goal is to test out the resiliency of the network, even though we kind of did test out a bit of it in the first phase, not by design, but it happened. But I think we'll push that further, and we're going to incentivize further for deeper, more sophisticated attacks on the network. And the goal is to also attract providers, which are that are critical, the supply side critical to the network, so people can start deploying applications at scale. So the incentive with design is going to be optimized for attracting at least a terabyte capacity in terms of memory on the network. Wide area distribution when it comes to low latency deployments. So we have lots of interesting parties, transit providers, data center providers, GPU providers, high compute providers. There's a lot of very, very interesting heterogeneous mix of data centers that will be participating in the phase 2. And of course, our validators are going to continue, optimizing their networks to welcome these new providers. Providers are not validators; they're just a different category of folks. And I think this is going to be an opportunity for the validators to get to know providers and sort of like, establish that early community and how we're going to work with them. And the last SIGME, the last release should have everything we need for the providers to come online.
Yeah.
I
mean, just to sort of zoom out a little bit, we're kind of in the nitty-gritty details of talking about something that's essentially the core value proposition of what we're doing here at Akash. And this idea that there's a massive amount of unused compute capacity out there in these small and medium-sized data center operators that's unable to reach the market because of these giant cloud companies like Microsoft and Google and AWS that have essentially monopolized this market in some ways. So what Akash does is finds a way for these smaller data center operators to bring their compute to market in a cloud native way. And the amount of traction that we're seeing from data centers and the pure amount of like metal that people are throwing on this network is really impressive. And we saw it in the previous testnet. I think we're going to see it again in the provider operations phase, and it's just something I'm extremely excited about, and really think it shows that there's a huge demand out there for what we're doing here, and that's just cool to me.
Awesome. I think we're done with the recap and updates.
Yeah, and I think we also talked about SIGME as well. You just covered that.
And again, quick reminder, if you have a question, please do post a question. I believe there's a button on your live stream that says ask a question, and we will be answering them very shortly, right after our announcements and shout outs to the top players. This is exciting.
Yeah.
So we allocated around 600,000 tokens in 3 main categories. The first category is overall score, how you're performing based on the leaderboard throughout the 4 releases, or so far in Akashian first phase. And the second category is a special category called Never Been Jailed. So if you did not go down for whatever reason, you are going to receive a portion of the award. And the third category is the community award. We want to recognize folks in our community. So we'll start out with community. I think shout out to Daniel Magro from Simply VC. They've been extremely, Daniel, if you're there, raise your hand. They've been extremely helpful in helping other people come up to speed and get their nodes up and whatnot. I think we want to recognize them. And hey, Dan. And the second category is, the second person in this category would be Quan from Forbol. Quan, you there?
Forbol team kicking butt across many networks, and they've been highly involved in Akash from the beginning to some of the earlier contributors. Very happy to see them continuing to be very involved.
Absolutely, they've been incredible on Twitter, incredible in our chat rooms, sharing updates and reminding people what's happening, and of course, and third but not the final one is Alex Nova from Novi. Alex, you there? There you go. Thank you so much for being extremely active in the chat rooms as well as our Twitter. So you definitely get a portion of prosperity. Great. Moving on to a second category, never jailed. We have chain layer. Chain layer, you there? And we have chain vibes, never jailed. And we have Age Network, Ethan Age. Age has also been an incredible early supporters of Akash. Don't know if they're online here, but they'll be happy. And Age has never actually ran a validator node before. The first time they are running a validator node, so I'm very, very impressed for their 100% uptime or never being jailed there. Whitwall is, I believe it's okay. Let's have Whitwall raise their hand.
Greg, one quick note about this one. The downtime slashing fraction, which is essentially why most people got jailed here, was or slashing. It's basically what it is. It's a number of blocks within a period where if you're down for that, then your validator will get jailed, and you're slashed sort of a de minimis amount of stake, as are your delegators. The missed blocks window was like 100 blocks, and that's extremely short. On the Cosmos mainnet, you can be down for on the order of 18 hours before you're slashed, and this is more on the order of like 10 minutes. So, especially under extremely adverse network conditions, the fact that we had a number of folks that never got jailed, I think is extremely impressive. So those folks definitely deserve the award.
Yeah, it'd be great to see posts by individual never got jailed winners as to what their configuration looks like, maybe suggestions to the community members. We do also have community prizes beyond, that are not in the weekly awards, and weekly awards are really to recognize various contributors network, but there's a huge community prize as well for people that want to share their configurations. So I definitely encourage folks to look into that seriously.
And
one
thing,
sorry, unjailed. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, one note about validator setups. I'd be interested to hear who's doing things like running additional seed nodes to help make the peer-to-peer network more robust. Whether people are running, how many centuries folks are running, what the kind of setups are there, and also I do know that Polychain Networks released a signer recently, which is a very lightweight validator essentially that allows you to use all of your centuries to broadcast the blocks. So if any of those more advanced setups are showing up in some of these teams that had never jailed, I'd be really interested to hear what those are. Sharing those learnings with the community helps everyone and makes the network more robust moving forward. So that's always my favorite part of these testnets, is seeing people share afterwards, sort of how they accomplished what they did. Always some really cool technical stuff in there. Thanks, Greg. Sorry about that.
Oh, great. So I think on that category, I think for the next phase too, we will actually incentivize a lot more for network-wide performance, for network-wide percentage of never jailed, percentage of how many number of folks are actually coming online as validators. So I think that'll encourage folks to share more of their setups, because everybody wins together. Great. And also, if you have any suggestions to the community on what kind of incentives that you would like to see beyond what we've published, I'd love to hear that. Again, this is something we're all learning together, and it's really exciting to get the feedback.
Very much agree there.
Awesome. Top score. We have a tie. 5 teams win the top score reward. Chain Layer, Chain Vibes, New Road Network. I don't know who New Road is actually, but
I haven't met them yet either. Yeah.
Yeah. Simply Staking and Whitwall. There's a leaderboard that Witwit created, and that should give you transparency as to why, as to how we selected the top 5. New Road, awesome. Is anyone from New Road in the audience? Great. I think that wraps it up on our
I do too.
Rewards. 6,000. We'll be publishing the rewards spread very soon, right after the call.
And shall we just kind of wait here for another minute for any Q&A? And this is some great generic Q&A time. So any questions that either Greg or I could answer, please feel free to just throw them in there, and we'll go ahead and answer them. Just flipping through here, some questions are on the scoreboard, which Anil, thank you for answering those. Also, Anil, thank you very much for the scoreboard. That is wonderful. In addition to Forbul's contributions, I don't think we've talked enough about what Vitwit is doing for Akash and the Akash testnet. They're, absolutely critical and have been wonderful to work with. In addition, Vitwit is also on Game of Zones as well, and highly active in the Relayer code base. So really cool to see them involved in a number of areas of the network.
Yeah, especially want to recognize Vitwit. I keep forgetting that they're actually a different company because they're so involved with us on a daily basis. We met Vitwit through the internet, through Twitter. During our first incentivized alpha testnet phase, alpha testnet 5 months ago, they sent us a pull request, I believe, to fix some of our code, and that's how we kind of started interacting. And they've been extremely involved in our first testnet. And I happened to be in India recently, visiting my parents, and Vitwit's offices happened to be in the same town. And I had a chance to get to know them in person, and I was extremely impressed with their capabilities. I don't think people know they actually have about, if I remember correctly, about 30 to 40 engineers in the office, all motivated, all extremely talented, and they've been quietly participating in the Cosmos ecosystem. And now I think the contributions are a lot more visible, but they've been very silent contributors to the network. And when we wanted to expand our engineering capacity, we started engaging with Vitwit, and we've been extremely impressed and very thankful. And beyond just helping us with code, they've been very involved with producing toolings like the leaderboard, and they built this incredible block explorer called Aneka, and they built faucets. They built so many cool things for Akash. It's not exhaustive at this point how much they've been contributing. And block explorers, we have about 3 block explorers, looks like. We have Forbul, of course, the big famous Big Dipper. Aneka is beautiful as well. These both have different interesting metrics they capture. And the third one we have is LookPub, I believe, PingPub. Visibility into a network is extremely critical for the community to organize themselves. Yeah. And block explorers are amazing tools for exposing the visibility into the network. And I can't thank enough how grateful I am to Vitwit and LookPub and Forbul.
Yeah, and that visibility piece is, I think, one of the hardest things, especially in new systems. It's really hard to understand which metrics are important, which metrics to track, and the folks that kind of get out there and say, like, well, let's figure out what we can track and what we can visualize. Let's throw it up on a dashboard, and then the community kind of gets to figure out which of those pieces are important. So thank you guys very much for being pioneers there. I think there was one last piece. Oh, sorry, Greg.
Go on. I wanted to get to the next one.
About the Supermini, right?
Oh yeah, Supermini.
There's going to be a drawing.
Sold out. We decided to release about 300 units, and we looks like we sold out all those 300 units, which is incredible within 2 weeks. Yeah, I think as of today, we sold out. We almost sold out. Yeah. Are we giving out Superminis? I don't think I
think we had talked about this, doing a drawing for people who stayed till now for the Supermini, and we'll announce during the next live stream.
How do we? Okay, yes, we're going to we're going to do a random draw for all the folks that stayed online and listening to our rant about the updates. So we want to incentivize you as well. Looks like we have 32 people online. We're going to do a random draw, and one lucky winner will win a Supermini. So thank you all. And we'll announce that in the next bi-weekly chat we have. And we plan on doing these bi-weekly streams in a similar format.
Awesome. That sounds great. And, I think this is a great time to wrap it up. And Craig, I will see you before then for sure. But I think all of you all will see Craig and I again in 2 weeks. So thank you very much.
Oh, wait, we do have questions.
Oh, we do? Oh.
Yeah, lots of questions. Ask a question.
I think it's a lot of people just saying congratulations and being very excited about the Supermini.
We do have, yes. So first question. How does your project interact with NewCypher?
Oh, great question.
NewCypher is, for those of you that do not know what NewCypher is a decentralized key management system. So as you know, keys or secrets in cloud deployments are only as good as the key that's protecting the key itself. So, and usually that key, that attestation that protects the key itself is centralized. So you're used to services such as Amazon KMS, or I think Google has something equivalent to do your cloud-based key management. So NewCypher is trying to solve that in a decentralized manner. We're very, very excited about NewCypher. Personally good friends with founders and the team, and how they fit into Akash is also pretty exciting, because and if you look at Akash, really Akash right now looks and feels like a container management service, or container as a service that you're used to on Google Cloud and Amazon. And we are serverless. That means you do not need to go configure the server. The system should handle the heavy lifting for you. But a serverless platform is only as good as the services it supports, right? Because today in Akash, if you want to have a key management system, you got to roll and deploy your own key management system. So instead of doing that, very soon you'll be able to use any key management system like a NewCypher without having to manage it yourself. So our second phase of Akash Network, we'll be coming up with a managed services marketplace, wherein critical managed services like key management or smart contract runtimes or graph databases or even traditional databases, you can use them without having to roll your own or not roll your own, manage your own system. So the vision we have for NewCypher is to use NewCypher with the least amount of friction in the Akash network, and use any key to pay for, any token to pay for it, either NewCypher tokens or Akash tokens. And thankfully, IBC, we're very excited for the IBC plug there. Using IBC, we should be able to have this multi-payment system and full-on frictionless integration with NewCypher. Second, do you have anything to add there, Jack? I think you muted. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just talking there. I was saying, yeah, as far as IBC, which I see a question of, and you just touched on, that IBC piece, once it is substantially ready and we finish Game of Zones, importing it into Akash is going to be very easy, and Akash Network will be able to natively transact over IBC with all other IBC-enabled zones.
Yes, and we believe the future is interoperability, because Akash cannot do everything you need for a full cloud deployment. The hundreds, if not thousands, of services that are incredibly useful, and expecting the team to cover all these services is not a reality, and it's not practical as well. So we rather work with teams or projects that have their expertise and that have the time and the resources to focus on it a lot more than we can. So in that essence, interoperability, I believe, will be the future and is key for scalability and adoption. So working with NewCipher for key management, working with Solana for smart contracts or high-performance smart contracts, working with other individual networks that are specialized in performing a certain function, and making the experience of working with the other networks as seamless as possible. And both when it comes to integration from a technical sense as well as payment settlement, I believe it's going to be the future and key for scalability. Right. Calculate how much such an attack would cost the attacker in the main network.
I mean, this depends on so many different variables. It's really kind of impossible to say. But, you know, an attack of this size would, let's say it takes 2% of all the Akash tokens in circulation to pull it off. So just think about what would be a hypothesized market cap and like how much that would cost. Also, we'll mention said attack did not take the network down. And in the case of a real live network, I don't think it would take the network down either, because validators are even more incentivized to raise mint fees. And right. What this would end up being is a huge boon for validators who just got a ton of fees from somebody spamming the network.
Yeah, somebody has to pay for this. And it's a lot of
tokens.
Yeah, so 2%. Yeah, I don't even know.
That's why we see these things in testnets.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. We see them in testnets continually, and it just shows over and over again that Tendermint and the Cosmos SDK are resilient against these types of attacks out there in the wild. Oh, Alexandru also playing Game of Zones. Wonderful. Thank you. How does the Supermini play into Akash network?
Yeah, so Supermini is a mini supercomputer. I believe I have the processor somewhere here. Yeah. It has a GPU unit, and it is a node on the Akash network. It can be used to validate the Akash network, but we wouldn't recommend it, because the validators, the expectation is that the nodes are in a data center, whereas Supermini is supposed to be for your home. What Supermini is phenomenal at doing is, GPU heavy operations. So that includes, if you are a researcher in medicine, you could do protein folding. You could do, I believe the processor can support up to 389 images per second in terms of processing. Supermini can run almost any application that can be built on in ARM4, ARM Cortex processor. So applications like PyTorch or TensorFlow, or you can run Resin 45 algorithms on it. So really, machine learning and data heavy applications. Supermini is great. It is faster than a laptop, but slower than a cloud grade machine learning or a cloud grade GPU unit. And it does package a NVIDIA Volta GPU, which is very, very powerful. So, and the cool thing is, when you're not using the Supermini, it becomes because it's a node on the network, it earns Akash tokens. So when you want to scale up beyond just using one Supermini, you can use those tokens and pay for it. So it's great for researchers that are paying exuberant amounts of money to the cloud today just to run a model. And it's if you're not a researcher, having the Supermini as a node on the network earns you tokens, and you can choose to do what you want to do with those tokens, either purchase more compute or liquidate them accordingly.
Yeah, and I think that sort of says something about where we've seen the most interest from an application side. Obviously Akash is a marketplace. There's providers, and I think we talked quite a bit about providers earlier on this call, sort of using that unused data center capacity, which is a huge, huge untapped market out there. But then on the other side, these machine learning practitioners and folks who are training these large models, they do see a number of issues with the prices on these public clouds right now, especially for this GPU-specific hardware. And at Akash, that's where we've seen early interest from application developers and folks who deploy applications is in that area. So this is a lot of the providers that we're talking to, and a lot of the providers that have joined these testnets also see that as a huge opportunity for us. So in the initial go-to-market, I expect to see a lot of machine learning applications deployed on Akash. So looking forward to that.
I'm excited too. And the cost advantage is literally about 10 times lower than the market. For those of you who have questions on the cost advantage, we have a blog post as to how we use subsidies to bring the cost down beyond just the demand supply. So it's really exciting. I would totally recommend you check that out. And which networks is planned to integrate with Akash using IBC? We have a few networks that are, of course, like something like NewCipher. We are looking at a few stable coins that we want to enable on the Akash network for settlement. We can't really talk about it yet because there's an announcement pending, but this is a stable coin that is pretty active in the Cosmos community and that you're going to be really excited about. And we have a few other networks. Solana is a big candidate. We want to slowly enable folks to run smart contracts on Solana using Akash tokens or Solana tokens, and have your web-based applications or your machine learning-based applications on Akash. So I think that's a great use case for IBC, and a great feature for Akash users suddenly having smart contract capability. That's high performance, right? Akash's blockchain, even though it's not designed to run smart contracts, but that doesn't mean we don't have a capability. Thanks to IBC. Incredible storage networks, obvious integration points for us. Akash does provide block storage, which is more real time, but for archival long-term storage, we'd rather depend on a storage network. IPFS is one of the networks. Sia Coin is another network. So there are a lot of that sort of like storage integrations. We see data analyzers like graph protocols and whatnot. Not particularly graph protocol like the graph protocol, but there's several graph protocols that we plan on integrating. There's lots of excitement around IBC for us. You want to answer any more you can think of, Jack?
I mean, I can keep talking about IBC all fucking day.
Yes. Next question. Can we know some use cases that is solved by Akash network? Yes, we covered machine learning happens to be our biggest use case. Even though Akash is generic compute, that means you can run anything that you run on the cloud on Akash network. But our biggest use case is definitely machine learning because of the cost advantage that we are seeing with machine learning applications. But we're also seeing lots of interest from low latency applications. Some of the providers on the network can deliver latency under 5 milliseconds in key metro areas. Key metro areas being the Bay Area, and you have LA metro area, and you have New York metro area. Delivering within 5 milliseconds is extremely, extremely fast. So we like to see, I think we're going to see a lot of streaming applications especially high data streaming like VR streaming or rich content streaming applications to key metro areas on Akash. And we're also part of the Packet Edge program. Packet is a phenomenal bare metal server provider that was recently acquired by Equinix. And Equinix is the largest data center provider in the world. They provide data centers to Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, so you can imagine how big they are. And they have about 150 edge sites that Akash is ready to go on these edge sites. I mean, the software is pretty active. So when we unlock those edge sites through Packet, I believe it's going to be 150 metro areas delivering at under 10 millisecond latency. That's extremely attractive for high content, high bandwidth streaming.
Yeah, I mean that's that's competitive with some major clouds, things like DigitalOcean and other major cloud providers. And we're a relatively new startup. I think other areas of applications that we'll see is people spinning up front ends for different crypto applications. There's a lot of work there. I think from an absolute number of machines, that's going to be a relatively low volume application. But I think in terms of actual end users, that might be a potentially high volume application. And then, as far as what we offer, it's general compute. And there's sort of an unlimited market for general compute as to what you can do with it. It only stops at your imagination. And I think that part of these test nets and part of the go-to-market that we're working on right now, the community and folks on this call are going to be building applications on top of Akash, and we're really excited to see what you come up with.
Yes, on the use cases side of things, phase 3, we're going to incentivize different types of applications. And one of the big incentives is to develop something called ownerless oracles, we call them. So ownerless oracles could be Oracle that has some sense of a website tied to a domain name, like Uniswap, even though Uniswap frontend is open source, but you still go to a domain address that is managed by someone else, by a human being that could be compromised. So because Akash is unstoppable, that means you cannot take down the workload unless you have the key to the workload. We believe we're seeing a lot of interest from the Oracle's world that want to come on Akash. We're seeing a lot of like self-publishing tools that are, have challenges with compliance of different jurisdictions in different parts of the world, but they have a common goal of sharing the knowledge without borders. So borderless knowledge sharing, borderless commerce, truly borderless that cannot be stopped is a big use case for Akash. We're also seeing a lot of interest in the validator community just to run validator nodes on Akash because the compute is so cheap. You can run hundreds of, if not thousands of edge light clients at the edge by fully securing your main blockchain and having network policies that are controlled through ACLs that limit IP addresses. So sentries, cheap sentries are a humongous use case for Akash. Yeah. Lots of edge routing in the sense, say you have an application sitting in Virginia or California, your giant infrastructure, but you want to have high-speed delivery for local populations that you're active in. You can use Akash as a caching layer to these high-speed edge locations. Very similar architecture as to how you would do sentries. So there's lots of use cases that non-exhaustive list of use cases I can go on. It's really up to you, your creativity as to how you like to see this. And the best part of Akash is fully open source, fully decentralized. No one controls it. Everything we do is, including the data, is fully open for anybody to be extremely creative and yeah.
It's a community network. It's a community cloud of folks like us who build in this area, and we want to build something that we can all use together. And I think it's really, really cool. So one last question before we wrap up here, and this Q&A has been fantastic, and thank you guys very much for all the great questions. Your mission is super exciting. I interpret it as power to the people and freeing the cloud. Definitely one way to say that. Do people need to have a technical background in order to use and set up Supermini, or is this going to be more of a plug-and-play option?
It's a plug-and-play option. You shouldn't need technical expertise to set it up, but having technical expertise will benefit quite a bit on what you can do with Supermini, right? I'm personally connecting Supermini to a drone I have because the drone is not exactly, I mean, it's limited in its intelligence, but having the Supermini back up a drone, I think is going to be fun. I'm backing up. I have a helium device here. I am connecting to Supermini, so I can actually enable these dumb IoT devices to have some intelligence at the edge. I'm running lots of models. I think Sunny is going to be running. Sunny is going to be running his bot, Sunny bot, which is phenomenal, by the way. It's going to be learning on Supermini. And lots of GPUs on our network. Yeah, GPT-2. If you're not following Sunny's bot, I would highly recommend you do that on Twitter.
Highly recommend. It's great follow.
So yeah, you don't have to be technical to set up Supermini, but if you're technical, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think that the Supermini sort of plugs into this broader trend that we've seen over the last 20 years of computer infrastructure becoming easier and easier to run. And I think with companies like Oxide Computing getting funded, folks like ourselves at Akash Network sort of looking at how to push that boundary out from larger enterprises down to small and medium-sized organizations and eventually to average users in the home. That's kind of, we're beginning to see the emergence of this big mega trend in the sort of, what's the best way to say this? The increase in ease of use of deploying internet level infrastructure and sort of like what effect that's going to have on the broader computing world. And I think Akash is very well positioned to sort of like sit at the leading edge of that.
Yeah, if you think about the technical stack underneath the Supermini, it is a full-on Kubernetes cluster. Like you get access to a full-on Kubernetes cluster running on a GPU stack in your home. I mean, those of you that set up Kubernetes and just know how fun that is. And that is, and it took so long for technology in terms of evolution to even get us to a point that we can have a home cluster running Kubernetes. So it's just a testament of advancement in simplicity and user friendliness.
Totally. I mean, I did this 2 years ago, and I had wasn't a Pi cluster. I had 3 Intel NUCs that I set up as a Kubernetes cluster, and the amount of ease of use of that has gotten easier over the last few years is extremely impressive. And then on top of Kubernetes and that whole sort of like open source cloud ecosystem, these packaged applications, we're just seeing many and many more of them. And it's, very, very cool trend that's been going on for a while, and something that's really going to affect Akash.
Great.
Awesome. I think that's all of them.
Good time.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Greg, I will see you sometime soon. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And please reach out to us on Twitter to ask us questions. We also have a Riot chat for technical support. Akash.network, if you have not been, has links to all of this. Anything I'm missing, Greg?
I think we covered it all.
Awesome. Great. Sounds awesome. See you guys later, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.